You know, there comes a moment in every person's life when they feel the weight of everything they have ever been. Not who they are right now, not who they're trying to become, but who they used to be. Old memories, old mistakes, old labels, old versions of yourself that cling to you like shadows you never asked for. And the truth is, most people live their whole lives dragging those shadows behind them, believing that they are forever tied to the choices they made years ago. But you are not meant to walk through life carrying a backpack full of things that no longer belong to you. You are not meant to let the past define the limits of your future. What you did back then, who you were back then, what you failed at, what you were afraid of, what you didn't know yet, doesn't have to follow you for the rest of your life. You have the right now, in this moment, to put it down. Every regret you've replayed in your mind 1,000 times. Every word someone threw at you that cut deeper than you ever admitted. Every fear that made you shrink when life asked you to rise. Every time you chose silence when you wanted to speak. Every time you doubted yourself when you should have believed. You can put it all down. It's not weakness to let go of the past. It is strength. It is clarity. It is the quiet courage of someone who finally realizes they don't have to suffer for mistakes they've already learned from. Think about it. You are not the same person you were 5 years ago. You're not even the same person you were a year ago. You have grown. You have expanded. You have endured storms you weren't ready for and learned lessons you didn't know you needed. Yet you still hold yourself accountable to a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. Why? Because the past is familiar. Because even pain can become comfortable if you've carried it long enough. Because your personal history has convinced you that you are obligated to stay the same. But you're not. You are allowed to outgrow your story. You are allowed to rewrite the script. You are allowed to step into a version of yourself that would terrify the old you. And you are allowed to let go of everything that keeps you from doing that. You don't owe loyalty to your former self. You don't have to be who you were expected to be. You don't have to repeat the same patterns just because they're familiar. You don't have to keep people in your life who only know the outdated version of you. Some people will try to remind you of who you used to be, not because they want to help you grow, but because your growth threatens the story they've written about you. But their story is not your story. Their expectations are not your destiny. Their memories of you are not your identity. You can choose, right now, to release the weight of every moment that has chained you to a life too small for your spirit. Let go of the embarrassment, the failures, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the memories that still ache when your mind drifts too far into yesterday. The past is not a prison unless you choose to keep locking the door. You don't have to keep walking into that cell. You don't have to keep rehearsing the moments that hurt you. You don't have to keep punishing yourself for things you didn't know back then. Forgive yourself, not because the past becomes acceptable, but because you deserve to be free. You deserve to breathe again. You deserve to wake up without feeling like you're already behind. You deserve to see yourself without the fog of old mistakes clouding your vision. You deserve to rise without hesitation. You deserve to step into a life that feels bigger than the one you've been dragging your history through. Your past is not a life sentence. It is a reference point, a place where you learned, where you stumbled, where you discovered things about yourself you couldn't have known any other way. But it is not the place where you are meant to stay. The beauty of being human is that you can begin again at any moment. You can choose new thoughts, new beliefs, new habits, new dreams. You can choose to let go. You can choose to grow, and you can choose to walk forward without carrying everything behind you. Release the weight. Let your shoulders feel light again. Let your heart breathe again. Let your future finally have the space it needs to unfold. Let go, not because the past doesn't matter, but because you matter more. This is the moment you free yourself. There is something powerful that happens when you finally stop letting the past dictate who you can become. But there is an even deeper shift that occurs when you realize that the stories you tell yourself about your past have been shaping your identity more than the actual events ever did. You've been carrying interpretations, judgments, labels, and emotional weight that you never questioned. You've been living inside a narrative that might not even be true anymore. And the moment you start questioning that story, the moment you allow yourself to rewrite it, everything begins to change. Think about how many times you have said things like, "This is just who I am," or "I've always been this way," or "I can't change." Those aren't facts. Those are conclusions you wrote during moments of pain, confusion, or fear. Maybe you made one mistake years ago, and instead of seeing it as a lesson, you turned it into a personality trait. Maybe someone hurt you once, and instead of realizing it had nothing to do with your worth, you convinced yourself that you were somehow not enough. Maybe you failed at something when you were younger, and instead of seeing it as part of the learning process, you turned it into a belief that you're not capable. These are not truths. These are stories you internalized when you didn't have the strength or the tools or the awareness to fight back. But you have that awareness now. You can question the story. You can change the narrative. And when you do, you begin to reclaim a part of your power that was always yours but buried under years of self-doubt. You are not who the world told you to be. You are not the sum of your past decisions. You are not defined by the mistakes you made when you didn't know better. You are not trapped inside the identity you constructed when you were simply trying to survive. You are more fluid, more adaptable, more expansive than you have ever allowed yourself to believe. You can transform. You can evolve. You can break the mold you never fit into anyway. But to rewrite your story, you have to first acknowledge the one you've been living in. You have to face the parts of your past that you've tried to outrun, not to relive them, not to reopen wounds, but to finally understand them from a place of strength rather than pain. When you look back with clarity instead of shame, with compassion instead of blame, you begin to realize that every chapter was shaping you for something greater. Even the hard ones, especially the hard ones. Maybe the wounds made you softer in ways that let you understand others deeply. Maybe the failures forced you to develop resilience you never would have discovered otherwise. Maybe the heartbreak taught you how to love more honestly. Maybe the loss taught you how to appreciate presence. Everything you've lived through has carved you into someone capable of more than you imagined. And now, you have the chance to tell that story from a place of power. Rewriting your story doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. It means reclaiming the meaning you attach to it. It means deciding what each moment made you, instead of letting those moments define you automatically. It means looking at your scars and seeing strength instead of mistakes. It means understanding that the chapters behind you were not the end of your book, but the necessary setup for who you are becoming. And this is where your liberation begins. When you stop letting your past hold the pen. When you stop allowing old versions of yourself to control your future decisions. When you stop assuming that growth is impossible because you've been the same way for too long. You have the right to evolve at any moment. You have the right to rewrite the narrative. You have the right to become something completely different from who you once were. Imagine, just for a moment, what your life would look like if you stopped telling the story of limitation. If you stopped repeating the narrative of "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess things up," or "this is just how my life is." Imagine replacing those lines with something true, something empowering, something aligned with the person you're becoming instead of the person you were forced to be. Imagine telling yourself, "I am capable," even if your past didn't show it. Imagine telling yourself, "I deserve more," even if your past made you feel less. Imagine telling yourself, "I can grow," even if you've never seen yourself do it before. The story changes when you give yourself permission to change it. And here's the most important part. No one else needs to approve of the new story. No one else needs to understand it. No one else needs to agree with it. This is your life, your identity, your transformation. The world will adjust to the new version of you. But first, you need to believe in it yourself. Let the past be a chapter, not your entire book. Let your story evolve as you evolve. Let yourself become someone your past self wouldn't even recognize. This is where your new story begins. There comes a moment in your life when you have to pause and ask yourself a very honest question. Am I carrying this because it is part of who I truly am? Or am I carrying it because at some point someone convinced me that I had to? So much of what weighs you down isn't yours. It's made up of expectations that were placed on you, judgments you were too young to challenge, opinions from people who never understood your heart, and pressures that shaped your sense of self long before you realized you had the right to choose differently. And that is the tragedy of holding on to your personal history too tightly. You start to confuse the version of yourself you had to become with the version of yourself you are meant to become. You start to mistake survival patterns for personality traits. You stop questioning why you act the way you do because it feels familiar, it feels safe, it feels like you, even if it suffocates you. But there's a freedom waiting for you the moment you begin to look at your life with new eyes. The moment you start to peel back the layers of who you've been told to be, you uncover the person you were always meant to be. And that person is lighter, stronger, more open, more aligned with the truth that lives inside your chest. Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go of the past. It's accepting that parts of the past were never really yours to hold in the first place. Think about the beliefs you inherited, the patterns you adopted, the fears you absorbed simply by being in environments that didn't nurture who you were becoming. Think about the times you held back because someone once told you not to dream too big. Think about the moments you stayed small because your past taught you that visibility was dangerous. Think about the times you didn't speak because your history taught you that your voice didn't matter. These are the chains you never deserved. These are the shadows that followed you even when the sun was shining. And when you start to recognize that so much of what limits you is borrowed, everything inside you shifts. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" And you start asking, "Do I still want to be like this?" That question alone can open doors you didn't even know existed, because now you are no longer reacting to the world as the old you. You are choosing how to respond as the new you. You are stepping out of the cramped space of old beliefs and into the expanse of possibility. You are realizing that your story isn't fixed, your identity isn't fixed, your destiny isn't fixed. You can rewrite, reinvent, and rediscover yourself at any moment. You don't have to repeat what your history taught you. You don't have to follow the script others handed you. You don't have to shrink to fit old rooms that your soul has outgrown. You don't have to apologize for wanting to step into a future that feels lighter and more honest and more aligned with the person you are now. There is something incredibly empowering about realizing you have the right to let go of everything that was built on fear, confusion, or survival. You have the right to unlearn. You have the right to rise. You have the right to become someone new. And the moment you stop letting your past define your present, you make space for your future to finally breathe. You're going to feel resistance at first. Letting go of old identities is like shedding skin. It can feel raw, vulnerable, even frightening, but it's necessary. Because you cannot grow inside the shell you've outgrown. You cannot expand while holding tight to limitations that were taught to you by people who never saw your potential. You cannot awaken while clutching the exhaustion of your past. So let yourself release it. Let yourself step into the unknown with open hands. Let yourself discover who you are without the weight of old labels, old mistakes, old disappointments, old roles that were never meant to be permanent. Let yourself feel the unfamiliar freedom of choosing your life instead of repeating it. You deserve to feel light again. You deserve to feel new again. You deserve to build a future that isn't a reflection of your past, but a reflection of your deepest truth. And that truth is still unfolding, still growing, still becoming something extraordinary. Let go of the parts of your story that were written in fear. Let go of the parts that were born from other people's projections. Let go of the versions of yourself that were built for survival, not for living. Because the moment you release what was never yours to carry, you finally make space for what has been waiting for you all along. This is your moment to step forward. There's a moment in life where you stop running from your past and you stop being chained to it, and instead you stand right where you are and look forward. Really look forward. Not with fear, not with hesitation, not with the old voice inside your head whispering, this is who you've always been. No, you look forward with intention, with honesty, with the quiet power of someone who finally understands that the next version of you is not something you stumble into. It's something you choose. Choosing who you become next is one of the most liberating, terrifying, beautiful decisions you will ever make. Because suddenly you realize the future is not dictated by where you've been. It's shaped by what you decide to do next. And that decision is yours alone. No one else gets to pick it. Not your past self. Not the people who doubted you. Not the moments that broke you. Not the memories that made you question your worth. Only you. But here's the truth most people don't want to face. Choosing who you become next requires courage. It requires you to look at the habits, the fears, the behaviors, the beliefs you've been carrying, and ask yourself if they still belong to the person you are becoming. And if they don't, you have to be willing to let them go. Even the ones that feel familiar, even the ones that feel safe, even the ones that once protected you. Because you cannot transform while holding on to the things that keep you small. And you know this. You felt it. That tug in your chest, that quiet dissatisfaction, that whisper that says there's more for you than this. That's your future calling you. That's the next version of you trying to break through the surface, and it won't stop calling until you answer. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? Not who you were taught to be, not who you settled into being, not who you pretended to be to keep the peace or fit the mold or avoid disappointment. Who do you want to be when nobody is watching? Who do you become when you stop performing and start living? Who is the version of you that feels honest, powerful, peaceful, awake? Because that version is real. It already exists in you. It's just waiting for permission to come out. Choosing who you become next is not about perfection. It's not about becoming some idealized image of success or happiness. It's about uncovering the version of yourself that feels aligned, the version that makes you feel proud when you look in the mirror, the version that acts with intention, speaks with clarity, and moves with purpose. And yes, it will require sacrifice. It will require distancing yourself from old patterns that once felt like home. It will require saying no to people who only know the outdated version of you. It will require walking away from habits that once numbed you, distracted you, or convinced you that staying the same was easier than growing. Growth isn't easy, but staying trapped inside a version of yourself you've outgrown is far more painful. When you choose who you become next, you start making decisions that reflect that choice. You start showing up differently. You start speaking differently. You start thinking differently. You start carrying yourself like someone who believes they deserve better, because deep down, you finally do. You begin to realize that life doesn't change by accident. It changes when you change. It changes when you rewrite the story inside your own mind. It changes when you stop expecting your past to magically produce a future you haven't committed to creating. And the most beautiful part, every moment is a chance to choose again. Every morning is a reset. Every experience, even the painful ones, is a doorway into a stronger, wiser, more grounded you. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're not defined by anything you've been through. You are simply standing at the beginning of the next version of your life. So choose boldly, choose consciously, choose the version of you that makes your heart beat faster. Choose the path that scares you a little because it means you're expanding. Choose the thoughts that empower you, the habits that strengthen you, the environments that nurture you. And above all, choose the future that aligns with who you are becoming, not the past that tried to limit who you could be. The next chapter begins the moment you decide you're worthy of it. There's a point where holding on becomes heavier than letting go. A point where the memories you keep replaying stop teaching you anything and start draining you. A point where carrying your old identity becomes like dragging a shadow that no longer matches your shape. And maybe you felt that lately. Maybe deep down, you know that the person you were is not the person you are meant to remain. But you keep trying to stay loyal to an outdated version of yourself because it feels familiar, because it feels safe, because change feels like stepping off a cliff with no guarantee of where you'll land. But here's something you might not have realized yet. Your past doesn't need you anymore. It doesn't need your energy. It doesn't need your loyalty. It doesn't need you to relive the same moments, repeat the same stories, reopen the same wounds. The only thing your past needs from you is your forgiveness and your permission to stay where it belongs, not in your present, not in your decisions, not in the way you see yourself, but behind you. The version of yourself you are becoming cannot grow if you keep watering the soil of who you used to be. And yes, it's hard. It's uncomfortable. Letting go of the person you've been for years can feel like losing a piece of yourself, because that version carried you through pain. That version survived things you never thought you could. That version protected you in ways nobody else did. So letting it go might feel like betrayal, but it's not betrayal. It's evolution. It's acknowledging that you don't need the same armor you once wore. It's understanding that the stories that shaped you aren't meant to cage you. It's realizing that the habits that once helped you cope are now holding you back. You're not abandoning your past. You're simply refusing to let it define the rest of your life. Think about how many times you've replayed something that hurt you. How many times you've had the same thought, the same memory, the same regret, looping in your mind like a film stuck on repeat. And ask yourself, has it ever changed anything? Has revisiting the pain ever healed it? The truth is, healing isn't found in replaying. Healing is found in releasing. In stepping forward without dragging the same emotional weight behind you. Your future is not obligated to resemble your past, but it will if you keep carrying it into every new chapter. And that's why letting go is an act of self-respect. It's choosing to step into your life as it is now, not as it once was. It's choosing clarity over confusion, peace over chaos, progress over stagnation. It's choosing to believe that what is ahead of you matters more than what is behind you. It's choosing your own growth over your attachment to your old identity. And let me tell you something powerful. The moment you let go, even just a little, life starts opening in ways you couldn't imagine. Opportunities appear, new thoughts come, new people enter, new energy flows in. Not because life magically changes, but because you do. When your mind is no longer crowded with old versions of you, the real you has space to breathe, to move, to become. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean erasing your past or pretending it didn't shape you. It means honoring it for what it taught you and then moving forward with intention. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to outgrow people, environments, beliefs, expectations, identities. You're allowed to rewrite your story, even if others still see you as the old character. You're allowed to choose a new path, even if the world expects you to walk the same one. You're not who you were, and that's a beautiful truth. So take a breath and imagine, just for a moment, the version of you who has let go of the old stories. The version who no longer doubts themselves because of past mistakes. The version who no longer carries guilt that isn't theirs. The version who isn't weighed down by memories that only replay pain. The version who stands tall, unburdened, clear, ready. That version is waiting for you. Right on the other side of the moment you finally release what no longer serves you. And yes, your past will call for you. It always does. It will whisper your name. It will try to pull you back into familiar patterns, familiar emotions, familiar pain. But every time it calls, you get to choose whether you answer. And the more you choose your future instead, the quieter that old voice becomes. You owe it to yourself to step into the next chapter without dragging the last one behind you. You owe it to your own potential to make room for everything waiting to enter your life. You owe it to your own heart to stop carrying what was never meant to stay. Let yourself become who you were always meant to be by finally releasing who you no longer are. There's a moment in life when you finally understand that becoming your future self isn't about waiting. It's about choosing. Choosing who you are becoming with every thought, every decision, every belief you allow to guide you. And maybe you've been standing at this invisible threshold for a long time, one foot still anchored in your history, the other reaching toward a version of you that feels distant, almost unreal. But here's the truth you need to hear. Your future self isn't far away. They are created by the choices you make today, not the memories you hold on to from yesterday. And if you truly want to step into that stronger, wiser, more fulfilled version of yourself, then you must stop treating the future as something you eventually arrive at. It's something you build, moment by moment, thought by thought, belief by belief. Your future self is watching the decisions you make right now. Are those decisions shaped by your old fears or by your new vision? Are you choosing from your wounds or from your potential? Are you living as the person you were taught to be or the person you now desire to become? Becoming your future self requires a certain kind of courage, the courage to let go of narratives that no longer fit, the courage to rewrite the script instead of repeating it, the courage to forgive yourself for who you were and to take responsibility for who you are becoming. It's uncomfortable, yes. Growth always is, but it's also liberating in a way that feels like taking your first full breath after years of holding it in. Think about the version of you you're trying to reach. The you who is calmer, more confident, more grounded. The you who moves with purpose instead of uncertainty. The you who no longer uses the past as a reference point for your worth. That version is not an illusion. It's not a fantasy. It's a direction. It's a blueprint. It's your soul trying to guide you forward. And every time you choose to act in alignment with that vision, even in the smallest ways, you pull that future closer. But you can't step into that future if you're still carrying the weight of who you used to be. You can't rise if you're still gripping the anchors of regret, guilt, self-doubt, or old identities that suffocate your growth. Becoming your future self demands that you release the emotional clutter that fills your inner space. It demands that you stop reliving the same stories that keep you tied to an outdated version of you. Otherwise, your future becomes nothing more than a slightly modified version of your past. You deserve more than that. You deserve transformation, not repetition. And transformation begins with clarity. Clarity about who you want to be, how you want to feel, and how you choose to show up in the world. And you don't need the whole plan. You don't need to know exactly how everything will unfold. You just need a direction. A vision that feels honest, aligned, possible. That vision becomes your compass. Not your past, not your fears, not the opinions of people who only know who you used to be. Think about it. What would change if you made decisions today based on who you're becoming rather than who you've been? How would you speak? How would you think? How would you move? What would you stop tolerating? What boundaries would you set? What dreams would you stop postponing? What habits would you release because they belong to an older version of you that no longer needs them? When you start thinking in alignment with your future self, everything shifts. Your posture changes. Your energy shifts. Your mindset opens. You stop trying to fix the past and start building the future. And suddenly, life starts meeting you at the level you're willing to grow into. But you must trust yourself enough to take that first step, and then the next, and the next. Even if you're scared, even if you doubt yourself, even if it feels unfamiliar. Growth often feels like walking into a room in the dark. You don't know where anything is yet, but your presence changes the space the moment you enter it. And with each step, the path becomes clearer. And don't forget this, you're allowed to become someone your past self wouldn't recognize. In fact, that's the whole point. You're evolving. You're unfolding. You're stepping into a version of yourself that your younger self didn't have the strength or awareness to reach. That's not something to fear. That's something to honor. You owe it to yourself to rise. You owe it to yourself to step forward with intention, with courage, with belief in what's possible. You owe it to yourself to stop shrinking into the memories that once defined you and start expanding into the possibilities that now await you. The past shaped you, yes, but your future is calling you to become more than what shaped you. And the moment you choose to walk toward that calling with your whole heart, everything in your life begins to shift, because you finally become the architect of your destiny, not the prisoner of your history. So step toward the version of you that has been waiting patiently, because your future begins the moment you decide to become it.